My name is Alison Baumgartner. I'm with sciencefiction.com, and I'm here with the inestimable Peter David.
Inestimable.
Inestimable. Oh, you're right. You know how you read a word in your head, and you just do it syllable by syllable?
Hey, look, when I was a kid, I saw the word infrared and thought it was infrared.
Earlier this year, I wrote an article about the New Frontier series.
Okay.
And I said that it should be the next Star Trek series, because they're often talking about Star Trek having a new series. So what do you... Oh, actually, I have a quote from that. It says, 1,005,700,000 pretty pleases make this a TV series.
Who said that?
I didn't take down the commenter's name, because it's usually anonymous.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, what would you like to see if Star Trek had a new series? Would you like it to be New Frontier?
Well, having New Frontier be a TV series would be terrific. I'm not sure how you do some of the characters, like Zach Kebron. That could be kind of exciting.
That makes me excited.
Honestly, if I were going to see a new Star Trek series, at this point, all I would ask of it is that it's entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, which is really, when you get down to it, all you ask of any television series. You can have a TV series with the most exciting premise in the world, and if it's not entertaining, it doesn't matter. Ratings are going to plummet, and the show will be off the air, pretty much in no time. I mean, probably one of the best science fiction series to come on in the last few years was Firefly.
Yeah.
And, that lasted, 10, 12 episodes?
Yeah.
Something like that. And even though that was entertaining, but unfortunately enough people did not find it to be.
Yeah.
If I were going to do a Star Trek series, I would probably try something in terms of jumping into the Federation's future. I don't mean we do a story where, we're going to time travel. I mean, we do what Gene Roddenberry did with Next Generation. We set it 100 years down the road and see where things have taken us.
The next generation.
Exactly, pretty much. See what the current status quo of the Federation is.
Mm-hmm.
Really shake things up. Do something where the Federation has fallen apart completely. And the Starship Enterprise is basically a rogue vessel that is trying to help put things back together again. Have it be the Federation with a mission, which is to reconstitute itself and create itself anew. Something like that. I think that could be kind of interesting.
I would watch that 1,000,000 times over. Well, progressive as Star Trek was, one of the things I liked best about the New Frontier series is it felt more inclusive. You had aliens that did not look very human, that had complex character arcs.
Mm-hmm.
You had, now you have to correct me, Burgoyne, thank you. An alternate sexuality. I don't think Burgoyne would think it was an alternate sexuality, but no. It's a lot more inclusive to a lot more groups and peoples, especially when you take aliens into consideration. Right. Was that sort of a balance to the source material?
Well, I mean, the fortunate thing is that when you're doing a book series, you're not bound by the human form. When you're on Star Trek, ultimately, the aliens are going to be played by human beings for the most part, unless you have an alien who's entirely special effect, which is kind of pricey.
Or puppets, like in Farscape.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah, puppets, something like that. The characters are almost invariably humanoid in some way, shape, or form. If you're dealing with aliens in a novel series, they can be whatever the hell you want them to look like. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about getting human actors to play them. You don't have to worry about your budget. I've always told people the budget for every single New Frontier novel was $500 million. So I could do anything. Have major space battles, aliens who really looked alien, all that sort of thing. It really unshackles you. Mm-hmm. In terms of just letting your imagination run wild through the Star Trek universe.
Well, I imagine that also translates to your Marvel works, which I'm going to take a shift to.
Okay.
So it feels like every Marvel character that you've ever written for, you see past sort of this shallow superhero syndrome or cliched sort of hackneyed character arcs. And so how do you choose the Marvel characters that you want to write? Do you look for challenges, or...?
Well, first off, I choose by the fact that they're the ones that I'm offered, more often than not. Most of the series that I take on, the characters are already in place. I mean, for example, when I first started on X Factor, he said to me, hey, you want to write X Factor? I'm going, oh my God, that's great. I get to write Cyclops and Marvel Girl. And I'm going, no, you don't have any of those characters. Well, what do you mean? They said, we're going to be really changing things and reformatting them, and X Factor is going to be a government agency now, and it's going to be Havoc and Polaris and Multiple Man and Guido, and I'm sitting there going, Multiple Man and Guido, why does anyone give a crap about these characters?
I just really like your Jamie Madrox.
So. Well, I mean, really, my first run on X Factor was something of a learning experience in terms of really developing characters in whom I initially had absolutely no interest at all.
Oh, really?
I really didn't give a damn about any of them. But once I started on the book and started getting into their heads, I saw all the possibilities that lay within them and just started to explore it. And I can't really tell you how, if there's a formula involved. I mean, I will always go back and reread, previous appearances and see what other people have done and try to take the next logical step, but at the same time have it be unexpected in terms of what I'm doing, in terms of getting the fan interest.
Well, I think you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
I didn't even know I liked Multiple Man until I read it. I'm going to switch gears here for our last question.
Okay.
So, I remember Space Cases.
Oh, good.
And
You're the one who watched it. Fantastic.
A lot of my friends they credit Space Cases for their interest in science fiction.
Really?
For those who don't know, Space Cases was on Nickelodeon.
Yes.
It was this fantastic little show about kids traveling in space.
Yes. Yes, we cast Jules State as an engineering genius.
I know, I didn't even know that until years later.
Yes, we reached through time and space and ripped off Joss Whedon 10 years before Firefly. I'm very proud of that. Yes, it does.
They didn't give Kaylee the rainbow hair, though. So.
No, they did not.
Was that intent to try and get kids more into science fiction? Because I know you try and get kids into comics and whatnot.
Oh, sure. Actually, no. Trying to get kids into science fiction was never really a consideration. It was simply a matter of that Bill, Mumi, and I were working on getting this TV show on Nickelodeon. We weren't really thinking of it beyond the notion of we want to get our TV show on Nickelodeon. We didn't have any kind of grander schemes beyond that. Once the show was on the air, we felt we had certain responsibilities to the kids. For instance, Bill wanted to do a story in which the ship was inoperable. It was floating in space, and they were on a collision course with a comet. And Bill was telling me this whole scenario where he says they're in the ship and the comet's getting closer and closer. This giant ball of fire is approaching the ship, and sweat is pouring out of them, and everything's getting hotter and hotter as the comet gets closer and closer. And I said, Bill, there's a problem here. Comets aren't giant balls of fire. Comets are giant balls of ice. It's space. They aren't moving suns. They're giant balls of ice. I said, no, they're not. I said, yeah, they are. And he said, well, we did an episode of Lost in Space where there's a giant comet hurtling towards us, a giant ball of fire. And I said, Bill, I think you have to come to the realization that Space Cases is not the bastion of scientific accuracy that you seem to think that it is. And I said, I'm not going, and I put my foot down. I said, I'm not going to do a storyline where we tell kids that comets are giant balls of fire and they're going to be sitting there in their science classes and putting this on their tests, that the comets are giant balls of fire, and the teachers are going to go, aren't you paying attention at all? Yeah. Why the hell do you think it's a giant ball of fire? And the kids are going to say, oh, we saw it on Space Cases. Space Cases wouldn't lie to us. And I said, no. And we wound up doing the comet story, and it was, in fact, a giant ball of ice, which the FX guys did a really nice job on. And I still managed to come up with a story development so everyone was sweating, so Bill was happy because he had the giant comet and everyone was schwitzing, so that worked out. But I always felt that we had once the show was on the air, that we had a responsibility to give, number one, give scientifically correct information to the viewers, because I was worried that these things would show up on tests or that sort of thing, and also kind of educate them as to the things that we felt were important. That's why we named the ship the Krista, and made a point of saying that it was after Krista McAuliffe, so that we would be having a way of immortalizing the first teacher and my knowledge is the last teacher in space. That sort of thing.
Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Very welcome.
You have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.